We will go ahead and start. The meeting of the Citizen Involvement Commission is officially called to order. Amy's off camping with a family reunion, so it's my turn again. First of all, roll call.
Tony, you. Not you.
It's easier.
Mark Matheson.
I'm here.
Linda Basinger.
Here.
Dennis Anderson.
Here.
Mike Mitchell. Oh, he's excused. And Amy is excused. Faith Lee.
Here.
Joyce Gifford.
Present.
Jesse Buss.
Here.
Cameron McReady. Barbara Rankin. Stephen Haverbeck.
Here.
Karen Morey.
Here.
Harris is not here. Bill McConnell.
Here.
Gary Fergus.
Here.
Brian Boyce. Okay.
All right. And we move along to our first speaker, Maureen Cole. And I know half of you in the room are my Facebook friends, so you know I've gone gaga over being in a treehouse. But raise your hand if you've been in the new library. Good job, people. All right, Maureen.
Good evening, Commission. I already made a mistake by calling you committee. I apologize for that.
We are a committee.
Horrible.
We are a committee.
We are a committee.
We are a committee. I talked too fast.
Okay. Well, phew. So we're off to a great start. So, thank you for inviting me to be here. I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on at the library. As Karen mentioned, the big thing is that the addition is now open. So I'm going to take you on a walking tour of the library.
Oh.
So this is one of our new entrances. This is on 6th Street. As you can see, the really good clue besides the sign and the rolling sign is the book drop. Now, we do have new handicap parking there. However, we do not have head-in parking. Do not park like this car. It was creative. It's confusing out there. There's lots of construction, fences everywhere. But we do have 3 new handicap spots right at the entrance. And you can see, John, what's the name of that curb that's flat? The ripple, the bubble curb, you know.
The ramp for the wheelchairs?
Yeah.
The wheelchair accessible?
Yeah.
It's a handicap access ramp.
Yeah, well, it's whatever. Not the technical term I was looking for, but
I'm sorry.
it's all right. It's
He put it in.
all right.
It was probably an architect that came up with that term.
Probably, yeah, probably,
accurate.
yeah. And then the other spaces down the rest of the block are going to be express spaces. So that means 15-minute spaces. So if you really just want to run in and run out, that's what those spaces will be for. And I think it will really help keep parking turning over nicely in a space where people know where to look for those spaces. So I think that will help. As you walk in, you see the new playground. It's not open yet because the planters are not full of dirt. The landscaping will come after we open the playground, but they first need to get full enough so that if somebody, a small child fell in there, it would not have sharp edges. So that's happening, and the plan is to open it this week. If you look to your left, you will see that there's construction going on at the Carnegie. What's going on in the Carnegie is that, I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but this part right there, as you can see, they took out the ramp and the stairs that were there. There's going to be stairs that go down to the basement of the Carnegie, but that will be staff only. And then there will be a ramp that goes up from the front of the Carnegie to the new building to meet the elevation difference, because it's a slight, about 5 feet elevation difference between the front of the Carnegie and the entrance where I'm standing as I take that picture. Now, when you walk in past the double sliding glass doors, you will be in the lobby. You can see that the bookshelves are holding holds right there. Those will go away because the holds will be in the Carnegie once that reopens. But right now, there's some temporary things going on in the addition because they'll end up back at the Carnegie. So this is the lobby of the first floor. And then if you look up, you see our beautiful sculpture. that I just was interviewed for today by the Clackamas County Arts Review. That's going to do an article about it. So it's really, really beautiful, and the Public Art Committee that was involved in that is very happy with it. The name of that sculpture is Camaraderie, and you can see that the center piece is made of 3 commas. Yeah. So this is another view of the lobby, kind of looking up the stairs. This is the hallway. I'm pretty much right in front of the elevator. The bathrooms would be off to my right, and behind me is the community room. You can't see, but right where that black lip is before the wood starts, which those are fir end cuts, by the way, and they look really, really nice. They're fir so that they match the wood that's in the Carnegie, which is also fir. So right about that black strip, there is a gate that can be brought down and close off the bathrooms and the community room so that in the future that can be used for meetings when the library is closed. But right now, all the staff is in the community room because they're going to go back into the basement of the Carnegie in the future. So right now, nobody can use that room but staff.
I wondered why there was another door there.
Yeah.
There's a door, there's a sliding doors that
Yeah.
open, and then there's a door on the side.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
that
lots
now
of
makes
doors.
sense.
There's lots
Yeah.
of doors, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, as you walk into the lobby, you will see this window that looks into the children's room, and it looks into an area that we call the peanut. It's a cutout, I call it the peanut anyway. It's a cutout underneath the stairway that goes up. So it's filled with some bean bags, and what's happening in the background is story time. And then this is just to give you a little perspective. This is looking down on the lobby, and you can see the 2 cutouts on the right underneath the stairs that go into the children's room. And then at the top of the picture, that's the children's area. So the children's area takes up the whole north end of the building, and then it wraps around behind the stairs. And there's just another. We have a lot of like too cute for words moments over there these days. We really, really do. So as you walk into the children's room, this is what you see. All our shelving is white. It's not finished yet though because we don't have end caps and canopy tops on it. The end caps will have a veneer made out of the elm that we cut down, so it will look really sharp. It will be stained to match the columns over there on your left and far right, the doors and the columns. The furniture in the children's room is really fun. This is my new favorite piece. It kind of looks like the Hungry Caterpillar. And then this is in the Storytime area. These tables are super fun. They're called Discovery tables. One of them is a light table, one of them is a train track table, and one of them is a Lego table. And we're doing bubbles. And there's a really good view from the Storytime area of the children's area looking back towards the peanut. You can see all the way through to the lobby. And there's the light table play happening. It's really fun because all ages of kids really enjoy this. So, as you can see, stair-step kids. Just adorable.
That's so much fun.
And then this is going up the stairs. One of the repetitive patterns that you'll see in Carnegie is these slats. They're kind of a gray, but they have different shades to them, and they're just really nice. And they create a lot of interest in the sculpture as well because they reflect off of the glass. This is one of the 2 laptop bars that we have. This is also made out of the elm that came down from the tree that we cut down. It's very, very pretty. And this is upstairs. Now we're in the adult fiction area. There's lots of empty shelves, and that's a good thing. If we were full, we would be already grown out of our building. We don't want to be already grown out of our building. So we also have not brought back the books from storage that we're keeping. So you will see in the weeks and months ahead a lot more books on the shelves. But right now they're flying off of the shelves almost as fast as we can put them on because we're so busy. And this is looking towards the laptop bars on your left. The reference desk is that kind of rounded desk on your right. You're looking towards 7th Street in this picture. And you can see on your right, the DVDs are there. Those DVDs will go back into the, they will go into the Carnegie at some point. So some of the collections that are upstairs in the adult area are up there temporarily. This is the internet area. Behind it, where that purple wall is, that's a conference room that seats about 12 to 14 people. It's a really nice size, but it gets sliding doors on it, and the track for the sliding doors has not arrived, so it's a completely open conference room. And the doors are being stored in the small conference room, so I've got that locked up so they don't fall on top of somebody. So we will have 2 conference rooms, neither of which are available right now. And there's a good picture of that conference room. And then this area where it's all the blue carpeting, this is all the teen area. And their shelves look particularly bad. You may or may not know, in the Carnegie we had about 2 square feet for the teens. It was very, very pathetic. So this collection really needs some growing, but it will grow. And the color of the carpet kind of separates it, since we don't have a separate room for them. And it's a really big, nice area. It looks out towards Atkinson Church. It will grow nicely. And then this is just back behind the teen area and behind the computer area, looking north. Oh, there we go. And the artist that created the sculpture also did a window pattern for us. And these are all commas as well. And they're really fun. They are not on all the windows, so you can have unobstructed view. They're on the windows on the sides, but these are on the windows that go around the foyer. And there's just a good shot of the glass close up. It's made out of dichroic glass, which means it has 2 colors in it, but it reflects just like crazy, and it's really beautiful, because you'll look around and just see different patterns on the wall at different times of the day, or even on the floor, or even on somebody's face, depending on where they're standing. It's very fun. This is the artist. His name is John Rogers. He's from Portland. He's done a lot of national work. He did a big, big installation down in Eugene at, not Autzen, the other newer one. Anyway, it looks more like footballs. It's very cool. But we spent a weekend there together while he got that up, while no workmen were around. And this is my new stress-free zone right there. Love that. Now, we have another entrance on the 7th Street side now, too. And so the sidewalk comes down from the corner of 7th and Jefferson to this door. And then when the work is done down below, the sidewalk will join up right here, and you'll be able to go on down to John Adams. And that will all be nicely landscaped. You can't really see it, but at the bottom of the picture, there's a little reading circle that's in the shade. And I just think that this creates a really nice little outdoor plaza for people that I think it will get a lot of use. We've seen a lot of people using the reading circle already. And we have solar as well. Since you won't be up on the roof, I thought I'd show you that. This is on our interior wall. Used to be the outside, now is the inside. And the contractors took down that light fixture, cleaned it all up, and put it back up. And it looks really nice. And then this is just a view of some of the work that they were going through while they were doing the getting rid of the ramp. They were jackhammering it, and our new elevator worked really, really well, because it shut down because it went into earthquake mode. That's how much the jackhammer was doing. So that was great, but we had just started using the elevator, and we were still trying to move, and then the technician couldn't get there for a day, and the HVAC was not working because they were doing something. So we are all past that now. And this is what the old Carnegie looks like these days, maybe just a little bit worse, but all the light fixtures are out. One of the main things that they're going to do in there is refinish the floors and replace the light fixtures and paint, and they're going to put up new shades. They're not going to do a lot more. They've taken the radiators out. It will essentially look like it did, only way, way nicer. The most of the work that they're doing in the Carnegie is down in the basement. And this is kind of what it looks like without stuff in it. So it really needs a facelift. And there's our construction site manager. We will be opening
Slide
the, hopefully the playground this week. So that will be good. He's testing out the equipment, and then I'm just leaving you with some cuteness. We like smiling faces there, and all ages are seeming to have a really good time and enjoy the new facility. So can I answer any questions for
Fantastic.
you?
Questions from anyone?
Oh, and we're still on time and on budget.
Yahoo!
Yeah, that's always good.
All right, Joyce,
Oops. My friend wanted to make an announcement really fast.
why don't we let people ask you questions
Oh, I'm sorry,
first?
I didn't hear your question. See that?
Okay, my question is the community room,
Yeah.
how is that going to be scheduled? And, because I was told it would be kind of like the cultural pass online, but then that's just a really short notice, and most people that might want to use those for meeting spaces would need more than 20 days or 28 days.
Right, well, that's a really good question, Joyce. We're working on those policies with the library board right now, and we've used other libraries as kind of our model for how to do it. Right off the top of my head, I can't tell you what we established, but something that's fair and reasonable, and it's going to be interesting seeing how it goes. We might have a few blips along the way, but we will have a policy that is in place, but if it needs to be changed, we can certainly work with the library board to change it. So I know that working with people like you and getting feedback on how it does or does not work will really help.
Yeah, I just want to know when I can schedule so I can.
Well, don't start yet.
Yeah.
You
I know it's not
Yeah.
yet.
We have like some Google calendars created just to like make note of things like that, but the policies we're still working on.
She could
Okay,
book.
thank you.
She could book now for November though, and be ahead of the game.
Good. We're scrambling, so I'm
So
trying
you'll
to
have
encourage
two
not.
rooms that you can, one that holds 71 people and one that holds 12. Is that
And then
right?
we have one smaller one that holds about 6.
Oh, wow,
But-
three.
Yeah, we have 3.
So the two smaller ones though are physically inside the library. So those that
Yes.
have to be
Exactly.
operational
Yeah.
hours.
Just the
When
big
the
one can be
library's open.
used after hours, kind of separate from the library. Yeah. And the other ones will be available during the day. And if nobody's in there, we'll just open them up to whoever if they're not reserved. But yeah, they'll be easier
Cool.
than the community room.
Gary?
How are you addressing the parking?
Well-
Now and in the future, if you just discovered that it's not adequate?
Well, if I discover it's not adequate, I'm going to have to talk to the people at the city and see what we can do. I mean, I think there's a stretch of road behind us on Jefferson that we can potentially change to 2 hour. That's currently all day. That's something I need to follow up on. I can't really add parking. So I'm hoping that our handicap parking and our express parking will help.
How many handicap?
We have 3 handicap spots.
3?
Yeah.
Still
I-
have parking by the fire station?
Yeah. In fact,
And we still have the parking by the fire station,
And
which
it's
is all
been
signed.
re-signed.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
all signed.
and I will say, when I went in on Thursday, the library was quite active. I was one of 4 cars at the fire station. So so far it
Well,
doesn't, an
because-
event
yeah.
could be a problem,
Well,
but
sure. But in the future, I think that once the front door to the Carnegie reopens, because we will have 3 entrances, then the parking over at the fire station will be really good for some people who want to come in that door, because it'll be right there. That'll be really convenient. The nice thing about having 3 entrances is the entrance on 6th Street, then you can park on 6th and you're right there by an entrance. The entrance on 7th Street helps as well, because if you're up on Jefferson or even across 7th, you can get to that entrance really easily. So I think having 3 entrances, it's not exactly library conventional wisdom, but it's, I think, a great design for our situation. So,
At the are they planning on using the Pioneer Center for
we.
parking?
We can use the Pioneer parking because it's public parking. However, I think at certain times of the day, there's not really very many spaces there. But like in the evening, that's a perfect place to go. So I'll make sure that we have, and I just need to modify the map that we had before, just to kind of point those places out to people. And that's a good place to park for evening event parking over there, behind the church.
One other question. The signage, I think that at the senior center says senior center parking only. Could that be changed so that people could
I'm sure if I paid.
not be afraid they'd lose their
If I-
car if they
If
were
I
parked
paid
over
for
there?
it, Kathy Wiseman would probably let me change that, yeah. It does look like it's very exclusive, yeah.
It does. My only concern would be people parking there before 1 o'clock, because it fills up for lunch, basically. So if people came in at 11, too many came in at 11, so maybe something to consider, library parking after 1.
That
the
might be a
signage,
good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, that might be a really good
Okay.
idea.
But yeah, so far it seems to be going well. Anybody else? Seeing none. Linda, what would you like to add?
Hi, I'm Linda Van Haverbeek, and I'm on the Library Foundation Board, and we have a Collins Challenge Grant, and we need to get 250 new donors at $100 or more so that we can get $25,000 from the Collins Foundation. And right now our deadline is September 1st, and I have some brochures if anybody wants to look at brochures. We have $100, if you give us donate $100, we have faux card catalog drawers that we would put your name in it. But if you donate $1,000, we have the end caps from the Elm. Right, thanks. And there's other things available too. And so you can look at our website, or you can pick up a brochure, and we'd love to have your money to help support the library, which we're already doing anyway, but you could help too.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you. All right, I'm going to take executive privilege and diverge a little bit, even though I assume the building division update is going to be riveting. We do have 2 other people that want to make citizen comments, and I think I might let them go first. Mr. LaSalle. And Bob, why don't you come up too? Bob and Bob.
I was ready for a little dozing time before my...
Ah.
Now, I don't know if this subject has been brought up to you before. I emailed Amy some time back about asking the city for more money for the neighborhoods, to notify the neighborhoods of your meetings and so on and so forth, because the population of Oregon City has been increasing and continues to increase, especially with the new areas that are coming in within the urban growth boundary. The postage has increased, printing costs have increased, and the amount that the city allocates to support the neighborhood associations hasn't changed for quite some time now. I couldn't give you an exact year, but I know it's been a long time, considering the increased cost of getting mailings out. Now, you've sent out some information about other ways to inform the neighborhoods of your meetings and goings on, but mailings still continue to be the most effective means. I mean, like in our neighborhood, if I was to go around, or even our whole steering committee was to go around and knock on doors and give notices out by hand, if any of you have ever walked around Park Place, it's a little bit difficult. So, and the city is also showing greater interest in supporting the neighborhood associations. So I think an increase, or at least a request for an increase of the allocations to the neighborhoods would be well past due now. And I don't think that $1,000 a year increase per neighborhood would be unreasonable. In Park Place, I give out, or I send out a couple of mailers a year that have a lot of information, good information, we get out to the people, and then the rest of them are by postcards. And the last 2 years at least, I've run over budget, easily run over budget. And there are other neighborhoods that have done the same. So if you get information out to your people, it costs money. Another increased cost this year will be the new developments that are being coming up. we had a special meeting in Park Place on June 7th to address 2 new annexations that are coming through. And I don't know how many homes will be built in those annexations, but a lot. And we had, I think it was 69 people in attendance at that special meeting. So if you have land use issues that are going on in your neighborhoods, there's a lot of interest when you bring that particular name up. Land use is a real key. So that's what I'm asking you to do as the Park Place Neighborhood Association chairperson. We want more money, and I think you all would want more money.
Laura, can we make a note of that for let us know when the budget planning starts next year? So we can maybe get some facts and figures.
Be the biennial.
We're in the middle right now, right?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, so
So
next year would be a new biennial
Give a good
budget.
warning when you start getting into the budget planning.
That's an excellent point, Bob, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mahoney?
That's Bob with 1 O.
The other Bob.
Bob and Bob.
Bob Mahoney, 240 Park Drive, Oregon City. I'm here to speak only for myself. I don't represent Planning Commission or Traffic Advisory at all, but I want to give kudos to the City of Oregon City and its staff for the times to which they have brought us and the things that we're confronted with, i.e. the Cove and its initiation, and the legacy plan, and a few annexations that are headed our way and things of this nature. But what I wanted to do is, as a citizen advisory group, that the one thing I want to emphasize, and I've noticed in the almost 3 years that I've been associated with the city, is the flow of information and how that occurs and why it occurs the way it does and the impact that it has on the community. The number one emphasis in state land use planning is they start off with citizen participation, number one. And that's, I find, kind of ironic. Well, not ironic, but it's a strong point of Oregon state land use law. And it emphasizes due process. Everything that this city does is by due process. I'm going to ask you to become familiar with a state law case, Fasano, F-A-S-A-N-O, that took place early in the late 60s, early 70s. And do yourself a favor, read that state, that court case and decision handed down by the Court of Appeals. It really set the tone for land use planning in the state of Oregon and the means by which decisions get made by the Planning Commission and City Council. Now we're headed into a really exciting time, one of them being the Legacy Project. All of that will take place under due process by the laws, ordinances, and the charter of the city, nothing else. And the flow of information that comes out of the planning department and all other departments that are somewhat associated with that have input will be included in public information, exhibits, reports, and things of that nature that we all have access to because of due process. Nobody really is above that administrative application of the law. All that information is handed up to the people that make decisions, i.e. The Planning Commission and the City Commission and Metro and all of the actors that are involved in putting the city together. And Metro plays a strong part in that. And be aware of that, because that is awfully important, because you're going to find that as time goes on and people, actors change, personnels come into different offices and start making decisions, they all make it in accordance with due process. If they don't, they're not paying attention. And somebody else is going to correct them, and quite well they should. So in the short time that I've been associated with the city, have nothing but favorable comments to make to our administrative staff because of the information that they handle on a daily basis and the combination of information and the the complications of information, how it gets understood and misunderstood. So public notice and the flow of information is vital in the community participation that you people here represent, and I just want to congratulate everybody involved in this process to just do your due diligence and be aware of what's going on and why. So read those ordinances and that Fasano decision. I think it'll make a lot clearer as to how things get done and why.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Can I put my hat back on?
You may.
Oh, thank you.
You don't have to be too formal here. All right, Mike Roberts, building official. I like your title.
Yeah. No. Sorry, paper. There you go.
What do you want to speak?
Thank you for having me here. My name's Mike Roberts. I'm the City of Oregon City building official. I've been here for about 26 months. As the building official, I'm in charge of the building permits, plan reviews that people turn in to build their homes or to do things like the library. The building department's made up of 6 other individuals. We have one building inspector 2, which is based on certification levels and experience. He was able to come in at a higher class. And then we also have building inspectors 1. We have 2 of those. And those are mostly for residential type of inspections and construction. We have one permit coordinator, or soon to be a permit coordinator, and then also a permit tech. So the difference between a permit coordinator is she is a certified permit technician through a national testing agency on code competencies. So as the building official, I'm also a master code professional. I have 28 years experience and certified in 39 different aspects of commercial and residential code. State of Oregon is a little bit different for our building departments. Even though we are an Oregon City building department, we are actually administered through the state of Oregon. Several years ago, it was actually 1973, a legislative act enacted the state building codes, so all codes were uniform throughout the state. Oregon City applied for the program, it was granted, so we administer the state codes in the city. We have 19 different codes. We have 7 boards that are administered through the state level. We have the electrical and elevator board, the state plumbing board, the board of boilers, which we don't really get involved with. We also have the building code structures board, the mechanical board, which is your HVAC, the residential and manufactured structures board, which they combined those 2 boards about 7 years ago instead of having separate ones. And then we also have the construction industry energy board. So what happens is anytime there's a code change or a prospective code change, it is drafted and it's sent to the state, where the state, these boards, then they meet and they discuss it. And then once it's voted upon, approved, then it's sent down to us to enforce or to administer those rules. So some of the examples of the rules that the state provides to us that we have to follow are cite it, write it. A lot of times we'll have somebody come to our counter or out in the field when we're doing an inspection, and they'll say, what do you want to see? And that's what I'll do. Well, we can't really do that. We have to administer the code the way it's written. So when they say that to us, we kind of point to the code book. And if there is a code violation, we have to give the code section. We can't just say, well, I like blue, so paint the house blue instead of brown, and I'll pass you. We can't do that. We would have to see where's that color code in the code book to make us do that. So we have to follow that. We also have an operation plan, which I apologize, I didn't put everything up on the slide for you, but every jurisdiction is required to have a building inspection program operation plan, which we have recently updated. And in that is our rules for how we operate the building program, whether it's a refund, our permitting process, our inspection process. It's all right here, and that's what we follow. So if somebody comes in and asks for a refund because they weren't able to start the project, or they didn't get funding, or for some reason they have to just withdraw, then we go to our rule book and see what we can do, and then we try to help them the best we can. Everything we do has to be approved by the state. So this had to be submitted to the state of Oregon. They had to review it, make sure it met all the Oregon administrative rules and the Oregon revised statutes for building divisions. Once it did, it was confirmed, I should say, then we were able to implement it and put it out for publication. Same with our fees, which I put back there as well. We updated our fee schedule this past year. Actually, I'm sorry, at the beginning of this year. We haven't done a fee increase in, I think the last one we did for a complete program was 2002. So there's been some changes along with salaries and employee benefits and number of inspections and vehicles and rent, things like that. Building departments are completely self-funded, we hope to be. So through fees, that's how we support the building division, and that way there's nothing coming out of the general fund for building division operations in the good years. So we've updated our building fees, which everything is listed right here. The other part is we have to check for licensing. Now, not only do we check for, when you come to our counter, we check for business licenses. You have to be licensed in the city of Oregon City to operate a business here. Or if you're from one of our surrounding metro partners, then we will accept the metro business license. But also we have to check the specialty trades such as electrical or plumbing and make sure that the general contractor that you've hired and spent money with to build your house is actually licensed. And the purpose of that is to protect you. We've had issues where licenses are not valid, could not be verified, and we don't issue permits to those people. And usually it's a little bit of an issue. Maybe it's been a bookkeeping error on the state's part and they haven't updated their computers. Once they show us the receipt or we get confirmation, even via telephone or email from the contractors board, we'll go ahead and issue the permit. But that's basically for the protection of the consumer. The building department's responsibility for property and life. You as a consumer going into a commercial building, you're not there all the time. You don't know where the exits are. Well, that's why we make sure we have the exit signs so you can get out of the building safely. So that's just some of the things that we do. As part of our service to the citizens of Oregon City, we administer the Uniform Construction Codes as adopted throughout the state. We verify the licensing, the construction trade workers, inspectors, and businesses. We train through certifications for all of our permit techs, all of our plant examiners and inspectors. And we have a regional building official meeting where we collaborate with other jurisdictions just to make sure that we are all doing it the same way. There's nothing more frustrating than having a contractor come in and say, well, I don't have to do that in West Linn, or I don't have to do it in Gladstone, and Oregon City makes me do this. Well, actually the building officials get together once a month, and there's about 40 of us, and we meet right here at the Oregon City Fire Station, and we go over things just like that to make sure that we are all on the same page. And then we also now, with email, we communicate. We have several today where we all are emailed a question, and then we just respond the best we can. So that's basically the function of a building department. I also passed out in the back the stats that what we try to do is we forecast where we're going with the building department, so we staff accordingly. One of the things that we take great pride in, especially the crew that we have there now, is that we're not holding up your building permits. We're not holding up the economy. If you come into us, which you have to if you need a building permit, we're not like Home Depot or Lowe's. We're the only store in town. But we're not going to make it that way. We're going to make it to where you want to come to us. The easier we can make it to get a building permit, the more likely you will be. So our turnaround time for single-family dwellings, brand new house, we do our best to do it within 2 weeks, as long as there's no defects in the plans. And we stick to that, and we do get them out. The one gentleman we have that's the inspector too, that's what he does. I trained him 10 years ago in Central Oregon, so he knows how to review plans. I take care of all the commercial, and then Tracy, our permit coordinator, takes care of everything else. She keeps us organized. So as we look through our stats, we can see that For the total permits, we've already exceeded in houses the entire year of 2014. We've already done that this year. And we're within 25 of last year. And things don't seem to be slowing down. So we're doing very well with the staff that we have by keeping things moving forward. And then the other stats I brought to you were just our permit trends, where we went all the way back. Our computer system's a little outdated, I'll say, but we've had it since 2002, and so it's a little tough to maneuver to get some of the stats out. But on the second set of stats, we have showed all the way from 2002 to current year, and we are, since 2002, we're at about third this year ranking of the number of permits issued. So I just kudos to the building staff for keeping it moving forward. So what else I wanted to show you was some of the things that we go out and look at when we go out for just single-family dwellings inspections. And up at the top that's a typical site inspection where we would go out and look to see where the building pad is going to go. See that all the vegetation has been cleared, that there's no easements or sewer lines or utility lines going to be placed where the concrete is going to be placed. Let me go back one more. Okay, sorry about that. So when we would go out after we've looked at the site, we go out and this would be a typical foundation system. So a single family dwelling, the single story is 12 inches wide, or 2-story is 15, a 3-story is 18 inches wide. So we'd look at the approved plans, look at the rebar, and then measure it, make sure everything's cleaned, and hopefully pass it. We also would look for any interior point loads that there might be, such as in this one. So this one, the concrete's already been poured, but now we have to go back and look where the joists are going to line up or any bearing points. If it's a 2-story building, they're going to have posts and beams coming down, and so we want to make sure that there's support underneath the house, just so there's no cracking or structural deficit or deficiencies. And then that's just another close-up view of the interior pads and also the anchor bolts that hold it down. After we look at all that, we come back out to look when they have the underfloor framing in, as well as the plumbing. This one doesn't have the HVAC, but you'd also normally see mechanical at the same time. Here we're looking at the rain drains. The contractor, when I took this picture a while back, was, "What are you taking pictures for?" And I said, "I'm just putting together a presentation." He wanted me to redo it because these aren't bedded properly. So I said, no, you're fine. He had sand there, and he's going to pile the sand around it. And then we come back, and once we put the floor on, now they built the walls, now they're doing the rough plumbing. Rough plumbing and electrical and mechanical go before we would do a framing inspection, because we want to see things where they've notched top plates. So you can't really see it here very well, but you see where the plumbing is going through. That's the flexible pipe. It's going through that plate. Well, right next to it is a drain line, and the top plate's been completely cut. And you cannot do that more than 40% of the piece of wood. And they completely went all the way through it. So they had to come back and they have to put some plates over it, strap it together, as well as nail plates, which you'll see. That's the electrical service. We also look at the electrical. Fire blocking. See the little silver things are nail plates. If the holes are closer than 1 inch to the face of the stud, they put nail plates on to make sure that the drywall screws or nails don't go through it and then cause a fire. And that's just a close-up of the nail plates. After we look at the rough plumbing, electrical, mechanical, and the framing, then we go on to look at the insulation. We want to make sure there's a vapor barrier, there's no holes. They've split the insulation around the wires, so there's no insulation voids. And then we come out and we do a shear inspection. We check to make sure how far apart the nails are on each piece of sheeting. Should be no more than 12 inches in the field, 6 inches on the edge of the sheeting. And then once all that's done, we have a house. Yep. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what we do in the building department.
Mike, how many inspections would you do on a typical new house?
The required inspections, there are 9, but then there's some where we have to go back if it depends if it's 2-story, 1-story, if we have interior shear, if the designing engineer puts different types of shear panels in, then we have to make more inspections.
Okay, Steve?
So is there a separate cost for each of those inspections?
No, everything is included in the price of the permit. So when you come in and buy a permit, you pay a plan review fee, you pay the permit, you also have to pay a mandatory 12% to the state. So of that permit fee, that pays for all of your inspections. The only time there would be an additional charge is if there's been a penalty assessed, which in our operating plan, we can do that if we go out on the site and the approved plans aren't there. Or if we leave a correction and they aren't completed and they call us back out. No, we're pretty conservative with that. If you're a repeat customer building numerous homes and occasionally plans get stolen or they get and during the wintertime they'll get trashed pretty bad in the rain and the mud. We try to be a little conservative and say, we can make a copy of the plans for you if we know in advance. So, and there's times where they do walk away. Somebody will come in and they'll look at the plan when the house is being constructed. And I really like this plan, and they just disappear. It happens. It happens.
Jesse? I'm just trying to figure out what.
Looks a
I
little
can't
too
see
relaxed.
your name. I just see white.
Mike, can you talk about the relationship between the planning department and the building department? Or what overlap?
Look how beatific. She's smiling.
That's not what I mean, of course.
No,
but.
sure. Actually, we have a really good relationship in Oregon City. I've worked for jurisdictions where we haven't, and the customer pays the price because there's no communication. But in Oregon City here, we start talking the moment the project comes across the counter, or when it's even just in the planning stages. So our planning department here is very good to notify all the players, whether it's development services, and include those. It's not just building and planning as part of the team, it's also development services. And we start getting together, we get together weekly just to talk about ways that we can improve our process for our customers. And a lot of that is been since Laura was the interim planning manager and now as the community development director. We've continued those talks. And with Wendy Marshall, our development services manager, and myself, we meet mostly every Thursday, but we've had some recently with the construction activity we haven't been able to, which has been busy. But we try to get together regularly and discuss our process.
So is there a handoff at some point from planning to your department? And it's just start finish, or is it a back and forth?
No, it's pretty much, as far as a project coming in, you mean? Right. No, it's if it's a residential subdivision, no. I mean, the planner sees it all the way through until it's ready to start issuing building permits, which is not until it's platted. And then, yes, they kind of hand that off at that point. But if it's a commercial project, say as the library or the Oregon City School District transportation building, no, we work together all the way through on that and communicate back and forth.
And there are multiple parts. Like when someone first comes in for a development application, they have what's called a pre-application conference, which we've talked about before, which is an initial research meeting. But they have their plans and they pay us to look through all of our codes and give comments on those. So when those come in, we email them out to, I think, about 40 or so different people. But those members include our building division, our development service division, and everyone from schools to you name it. And so that's a good first step for everyone to all have eyes on the same plan at the same time. And then when development comes in, when the planning division reviews it first, we also send a couple of notices out to a lot of people. Sorry for all the emails, everybody. And then it'll get passed to the development services division, and before say they start building the streets in a subdivision or something like that, they too have a meeting, invite all of us to that as well. And then after they're done and they're ready for homes, Mike checks with us to make sure things are good. Or say, for example, before the library starts being constructed, each time we do something significant, we keep kind of checking back with each other to make sure we're all on the same page with planning, building and development services primarily, but also every other department that has a stake. So it's pretty good. It's worked out really well. We have lots of forms to sign off to get the official approval and things like that.
And the other thing that we have started, I think it was March of last year, Laura and myself and Wendy Marshall, once she came on board, I think it was in June is when she started, we call it the Community Development, I'm going to mess it up, Community Development Department Stakeholders Group, which we meet the first Thursday of every month. And basically what we explained to them when we first started is, this is Oregon City Building, Planning, and Development Services Division, but we're here for you. So what can we do to make your job easier? And then we listen to their suggestions, as well as they listen. If there's a reason why we can't do a process the way they want us to, we explain to them it's either a city issue if it's part of the review process or the plan review or planning code, or it's either a state code. And if it isn't and we can't, then we explain that to them and we find a way we can do it the best we can that works for us and for them, because that's what we try to do.
And one thing to note about those meetings is that they're open to the public. They're the first Thursday of every month, and Chair Will Hite attends all of them for the CIC or neighborhood associations.
Tony?
Yes. So Mike, sorry to pull you back a little bit, but when you were describing about paying for the permits, you said something about 12% to the state?
Correct.
So what is the 12%?
The 12% it's the state surcharge that, because the state building codes division in Salem, they also have jurisdiction. There's 129 building jurisdictions. And for us to have a building department and administer the codes in Oregon City, we have to give the state 12% of that, of the funds. So what those go for is it pays for the director, it pays to run their building department, as well as to finance the boards.
So is it 12% of the budget for building the new property, or 12% of the permit fees and everything?
Permit fees.
Okay.
Yes. So any permit, whether it's building, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, any of that, is all surcharged 12%.
I see.
And 4 of it is dedicated to technology. So building codes division, I'll mess up the year, but it was around 2004, implemented another 4%. It used to only be 8%. And they dedicated those funds and put out a statewide computer program. And so 4% of those funds go to fund that program.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Shaw?
So I get to deal with contractors on a daily basis kind of throughout the state here. Very seldom do I hear any kind of complaints about the Oregon City Building Department, so kudos to you, because we're the first ones that get to, as a designer, get to hear about all of this. So it's very welcoming that you are the job you're doing there, Mike. So keep up the good work.
And thank you for all the material. I'm surprised looking at some of this. I didn't realize the downturn actually started 10 years ago.
2007.
Yeah. So, and nice looking numbers when we're not even at the end of the third quarter.
They're looking good.
Very good. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Lewis, would you update us on the works of the Public Works?
Yes, thank you very much for your time. So I just want to go over a few things. I came today with gifts, so I'll be handing out some gifts. But before we get to that, just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the projects that are going on, kind of in the same theme as Mike has brought on. Right now in the Development Services Group, we've got 36 active projects. 11 are in that land use kind of realm, so anywhere between just after the pre-app to when they kind of go into the design phase. So, and we've got 12 projects in the pre-design phase right now, and another 13 in the construction phase, and they range anywhere in size from duplex to full-blown subdivision or commercial development. So the biggest project that you've probably noticed, if you get around at all, is the Cove project. So that project is under construction. They've got some pretty big equipment out there now. Some of the biggest equipment we've seen. I know some of you were at the groundbreaking. So that project is racing the weather right now. So they want to get as much done before it starts raining as they can. So that's probably the biggest new development project that's underway right now. Hopefully all of you got a citywide. We sent out a citywide mailer, which has got a letter on it with a map inside that talks about construction in Oregon City. We haven't done this kind of outreach in the past, so we thought we missed the mark a little bit last year, we felt like, with some of our construction noticing. So we're taking it to a whole new level this year. So this letter went out, which kind of gave you a general understanding of what's going on. If you live on a street that is actually going to be impacted by construction, you're either getting these postcards. Our website's actually got a detailed map of project and dates in which they're going to be working on those projects. So that the postcard references that. And then we've also got some door hanger kind of notices that are going out to those that are most impacted. And so it doesn't matter if it's a slurry seal project, you'll probably see a lot more noticing, just because they're kind of, the nature of that is so inconvenient if you weren't planning on being anywhere but in your home on the day of that particular project. But lots of construction underway, and we're trying with, I think, good success to kind of get the word out so that people at least know that construction's coming to the neighborhood. So keep your eye out for that. Pay attention to our website. We're trying to do a good job with the website updates on a project by project basis. So with that, if you got specific questions about projects, let me know. But we've got quite a few going. The one project that I've got a couple that I want to give you updates on, but the Beaver Creek left turn lanes. So as you're heading towards 213 from town, we had a project that was planned for this year that we got it out to bid late in the season, and really we got one bid that came in several minutes late on the first round of bidding, and their bid was really, really high. We thought it was really high, and so we rejected that, and we reconfigured the project a little and got no bids. So what we're hearing from the construction community is just this time of year, they're just really busy, and they really aren't interested in squeezing in another project, especially one like that that's got a fair amount of complexity to it with regard to traffic control. And for me, I kind of breathed a little sigh of relief, because it seems like we've hit just about every other nook and cranny in town with some kind of construction impact. So that's one project, and I think we'll repackage that and have it out early next spring. So I wanted to let you know that. And let's see. Oh, the other one that I wanted to mention was Lynn Avenue. The sewer moratorium project is out for bid right now, so that's going to impact those of you that use Lynn Avenue. But it's going to be later in the season, so it's supposed to open on August 23rd, and by the time we award contract and get the contractor on site, it'll definitely be probably late September before they'll, maybe early October before they actually start construction. So, but again, another big important project for the city to get accomplished. I wanted to mention the county has been talking about some kind of street funding package to come out and take to the voters. So if you remember your voters pamphlet, they were asking for some kind of an advisory vote on whether or not people actually wanted to vote on some kind of a revenue generating mechanism that would help them fund road maintenance. And they talked about a vehicle registration fee, and they talked about a gas tax. They have since decided, with a fair amount of city input, to put on the ballot in November a 6-cent gas tax increase to help fund road maintenance in the county. It would also, the requirement that the cities had for that was, like the vehicle registration fee, the law requires with vehicle registration fees that they give the cities 40% of that funding for their use. And the city said, we think the gas tax is the right way to go. They passed it in Portland. It's a reasonable time frame for that. But we want that there's not a requirement for gas taxes, any percentage of that to go to the city. So the cities were adamant about wanting their 40%. So that's part of the deal that the county agreed to. And so the idea for that money would be that we could use that, and it's in total. So the other details about this are it's 6 cents per gallon. It's got a term to it though. It's a 7-year tax. So at the end of 7 years, it would drop off unless they brought it back up again for another vote. So that's kind of where they're at with that. Overall, the amount anticipated to be collected, obviously this is based on the amount of gas sold, but they're estimating $9 million per year that they would collect for a total of $63 million over the 7-year period. And of that, Oregon City is one of all the cities in the county would get some benefit from that, and it looks like for Oregon City it's just under $600,000 a year, and we're suggesting, I mean, there's some debate yet about how we want to talk about spending that, but we'd want to have that in a bit of an open public forum and talk about whether or not that would be used for safety measures, safe routes to school. Obviously, we've got a pavement maintenance fee, so, you know, in my opinion, we've done a good job with our pavement maintenance, so probably more on things like signalization, capacity increases where we need capacity increases, those kinds of projects. So we'll probably, I think the county's actually going to ask us for a project list, so let me know if you're interested in a particular project that you'd like to see on the list, and we'll do what we can to see if that makes sense. Let's see. Oh, the other thing I want to mention, if I can find my paperwork here, there's a schedule of meetings that you may be interested in, if I grab the right thing. So county has already met on that topic a couple times in July. The public was invited for public comment on July 21st. August 3rd, there's a public hearing at the County Board of Commissioners where they're expected to actually take formal action on this gas tax measure. And then they're asking cities to sign a IGA by September 1st that supports the gas tax measure. So, yeah, that's that. Any questions on the gas tax measure? All right, so back to...
You want to explain the gifts?
Yeah, I'm going to explain the gifts. So we talked a little bit about this. Bob talked to us about the city's Drive Safe Oregon City program, where we have stickers that would be placed on your recycle bin or your trash can. And these came by way of the Oregon City Transportation Advisory Committee, so those two gentlemen back there are responsible for this. So there's 3 different stickers. It says hang up or pay up is one of them. Eyes up, slow down. It's another one. And safe driving is no accident. So those were the stickers that we kind of all agreed made the most sense. By the way, these were designed by a local artist who's employed as a police officer as well. So he did the design work on this, and so that was very cost effective for us because he just really donated his time. So we've had several of those made up. Now we didn't have enough for everybody in town, and because we had budget limitations on how much we could spend on these stickers. So collectively we've decided to I think the other thing that we agreed to, and we talked about it in this meeting, was having the neighborhoods distribute those. And we actually talked about the McLaughlin neighborhood kind of starting that effort off as the guinea pig, but we have all these stickers and school's coming. It seems like we need to just get those out there. So I've got piles of these stickers that are bound based on distribution similar to what you have for your mailing budget. So we've used that same kind of methodology to distribute those. We've also got some guidelines as with not having a sticker for everybody that might want one. We put together some guidelines on recommendations on how we think you should do that. And so with that, we've provided a map in the package. So you have this map, and we've color coded it such that you can see which properties we think should be targeted, so that you can distribute those to your arterials and your collector roads in a way that they would have the most impact, right? So it doesn't have to be that way. We're just giving you some guidelines because we heard from folks that that would be helpful. And so we've got the map. We've got the other thing that we were hoping to do was to ask the people that are delivering those for the neighborhood that we try and get the name and address and the neighborhood in which you're delivering those, so that we can kind of monitor those speeds a little bit for you and figure out if there was a positive effect by this little campaign. And then we've also got some brochures on the Drive Safe Oregon City. So that is something I'll hand out tonight, assuming you want them tonight. Now, that kind of puts it in your hands as becoming then the responsible person for this package and to disseminate to other folks in your neighborhood. I haven't heard from every neighborhood that they necessarily want to do it that way, so I'm willing to hear if you're not wanting to take that packet. But Bob took his packet, and he said he's doing, and Karen said she'd take hers. So what I was wanting to do, if I could, without being too distracting, while you're presenting, I'll kind of distribute them to the various neighborhoods and just give you this package, and you can take it with you. And if you want us to come to your neighborhood to talk about it, we'd be happy to do that as well. We've been to several neighborhoods to talk about it, but we actually haven't had a deliverable, so want to do that for you. So we want it to be effective. We think it's more effective if it's driven by the community as opposed to the city saying, stick this sticker on your garbage can, please. So look for that. The last thing that I wanted to mention
Can I
was...
ask a question before you move
Oh,
on?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So you're supposed to put these things on your recycle can, but mine's always in the garage. It's only out
But it's
once
for when
a
it's out.
week. Only when it's out.
But it's for when it's out.
So the idea was people get tired of signage and they kind of lose that effect. All signs do, right?
Okay.
So the idea was to roll them out at least once a week. It's okay if you put it out the night before, or, you can leave it out there a little ways, but yeah, the idea is not to kind of pollute the environment with your garbage can out there all week.
Once in a while.
Yeah, it's a reminder, and throughout the city there's different neighborhoods that have different pickup days. I don't know all those dates, but it seems like we've got about 3 different days in Oregon City that they pick up trash. So that was the idea.
John?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the help we got from B&B.
Oh, yes. So I definitely, thank you, Bob. So there's the Drive Safe Oregon City logo on the bottom of this, but there's also B&B Leasing's logo. They contributed 50% of the price to have the stickers published. I wish I could remember that amount. You don't remember the amount, do you, Bob? I don't. It was significant, though.
It was near $10,000, I think.
Yeah. So
And for those not hearing, Bob said near $10,000.
And they let us put them. I mean, they could have objected to them being on the cans, but they were. We worked with them on the sticker type so that they will stick, but they can be pressure washed off if they bring the can in and need it replaced. So that was a good compromise, and I thought good deal for the city and for the citizens of the city. B&B Leasing's always been a good partner for us. Any other questions? Okay. Then the only other thing I wanted to mention was this is another great partner that Oregon has, Oregon Solve. We called them to talk about some litter problems we have down at High Rocks. And right off the bat, they said, yeah, we want to come talk to you. So they came and met with folks from Gladstone and from Oregon City to talk about some of the problems that we're experiencing down by High Rocks. And they said, we will do this. We've got resources to collect the trash, take the trash, and pay for the trash to be disposed of at Metro. So on August 13th from 10 to noon, they're going to be at High Rocks, and they're going to gather on the Gladstone side first, just in the morning at 10, and then from there people can move onto the Oregon City side. So if you're interested, the coordinator's Quentin Bauer, and you can find this information on the Solve website. So that's probably the best way to get the information, because it printed really small when I printed it. So I was, so I would just recommend looking at the website for that. But I think that's a big effort, and hopefully they're bringing their own volunteers as well that aren't necessarily from Oregon City. So it'd be nice to see some folks from Oregon City and Gladstone that are supportive of cleaning up the waterfront. So.
Is this littering or deliberate dumping?
Isn't littering deliberate dumping?
Well, is it a truckload or is it too many candy wrappers?
No, it's more like an accumulation of people forgetting or leaving their lunch, their beer cans, their whatever. So, from what I understand, it's pretty trashy down there right now. So that's it for me. Unless you have any other questions.
No, I think we appear to be good. Bob, could you come up to the microphone? We generally don't invite the audience, but for you, I'll make an exception.
John's presentation about the traffic safety program is just an example of what I was trying to refer to in terms of flow of information. John took what was a rough idea, and he and his staff refined it and defined it so that it became a living, workable program, and it's going to result, hopefully, in public safety. And so working with the staff in what turned out to be a really, what I consider to be effective program, that started out with just an idea and got a little foggy and got beat up and beat around and what have you, and pretty soon he comes back with all this defined, this is what I understood you guys to mean, and it's exactly what we meant, but it was put into definition so that we could understand what we were saying. Ideas sometimes get passed around, and what would he say, and what am I understanding this to be, and pretty soon it became something that was really workable and beneficial. Thank you.
Right, approval of the minutes. Anybody have a motion? Anybody have a minutes? Did everyone receive the minutes, and have they read them?
Did not read them.
Aha. Well, then you don't get to make the motion, but would somebody else please do so?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. All right, round table. Let's start with Tony and then come this way.
Good evening, everyone. So, Berkeley Hills Neighborhood Association, we had our meeting a few weeks ago. Went very well, actually. Had a good turnout. We have a barbecue coming up, our second annual barbecue for Berkeley Hills Neighborhood Association at the Berkeley Hills Park. And that is this coming Saturday on the 6th. Yes, from 1 p.m.? 1 to 4 p.m. So we have quite a few people in attendance. People have signed up for it in the neighborhood. Very excited. The neighborhood park is finally finished to 98%, and that looks really good. The kids are enjoying that, and they'll always do it this summer. So we have the fire department coming out, the police department coming out, and we'll be passing out some flyers at the National Lights Out tomorrow. Yes, Parks and Recs have come out to do a ribbon cutting for the Berkeley Hills Park, so that's great. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Joyce Gifford, Hillendale Neighborhood Association. I want to say that I was able to attend the Berkeley Hills meeting and was able to give them some information from the parks. department about their playground, and so it's open and it's fun, and you guys are going to do a special little ceremony at the picnic, and I'm pretty excited about that. Hillendale Neighborhood Association had their picnic at Hillendale Park.
First annual.
It was the first, and we hope to make it annual. There was lots of watermelon and lots of cookies. Several people stopped by, and then just people that were in the park happened to be coming by saying, "Oh yeah, I remember getting that postcard about this. This is what it's about." And just talking with them. And we had lots of little prizes to give out, Frisbees from the Lions, and just to be able to throw the Frisbees out to the kids and tell them, yes, you get to take that and keep that and go home with it. So there was a lot of really positive energy. There were tons of pickleball players there. Unfortunately, we didn't get to interact with them too much because we were told that we needed to keep our picnic over by the picnic shelter, which is at the complete opposite end. But people walked around. It was a lovely day, and we had a really nice meeting. Just want to remind everybody that there's still concerts in the park going on, and the Oregon City Parks Foundation, a newly formed nonprofit group, has taken it upon themselves after seeing a need that there were no recycling bins for cans and water bottles and things like that at the concerts in the park, that we're going to be sponsoring that for the next few weeks just to see how it goes. So we will have bags there for you to put your empty water bottles in. We will make sure that those get all cleaned up and taken, and that every nickel counts. So we're going to help our parks one nickel at a time. So that's all I have to report. Oh, wait. No, there's movies in the park that start this Friday. So Friday the 5th is going to be the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee's Parks Night. So if you go to the movies in the park, get there early. We'll have some information about parks for you. Like to get your feedback about how the parks are working for you, how the dog parks are working for you. So looking for some public feedback on that, and there'll be some great door prizes, including, if you have an RV, you could win an overnight stay at the RV park. Or you might win a picnic shelter, or there's lots of swim passes that we're going to be giving out.
Well, there was no meeting in Park Place in July, so don't have anything to
Nothing
report.
exciting, okay. And the Kanema Twosome.
Yes. I have one thing. I'd like to extend praise to John and Peter from the, I wasn't in attendance, but at the NRC, a meeting was held, and there was an issue that confronted Kanema with a new development, a proposed development that's going in cottage building. And there's been a great deal of flurry about whether it should be put into play or not. And I thought, I'm sorry John's not here to hear this, but I thought the way Peter and John dealt with the faction that was sort of upset with this construction answered a lot of their questions and alleviated some of the problems. And I hope that they get the recognition. I want to give praise to Pete and John for putting up an explanation on like the process and the commitment to like satisfying the requirements of like building even in Kanema, which is a rather difficult area to build in. And so often we sort of just hear a lot of things that are going on in a sort of a derogatory thing about Kanema, and it's nice to hear that like the city is working for the greater whole of the community as opposed to those individuals who feel like they are, a little bit more selfish with the exact way in which the neighborhood should go. So kudos to John and Pete, and
Got here in time
I
for the
appreciated
compliment.
seeing that video. Thank you.
And John, thank you for the thank you. Now he's
He
catching
doesn't
up.
know, but I know.
Linda, do you have anything to add?
No, we're getting ready for our, well, maybe I do. We're having a picnic August 13th, our annual picnic that we have in the Children's Park, and we're scheduling a steering committee.
Okay.
We've got some things for September.
Faith, anything to add for you?
And,
For you?
well, Joyce gave most of it, but our normal steering committee meeting would be tomorrow night, and instead, I think both of us will be at the National Night Out tomorrow night, and we'll be in the booth. So if you haven't signed up, you should do so.
Okay. Mark, anything to add for Berkeley Hills?
Nope.
Jesse?
Yeah. Normally we would have a steering committee meeting this week, but it's been converted to a general meeting. And it's going to be Wednesday, 7 p.m. Instead of being in the firehouse, it's going to be basement of the Pioneer Center. And John, I don't know if you're presenting or if Martin is, but Public Works is presenting.
Martin will be there. I've got commission, but yeah, I'll be there in spirit. How's
Great.
that?
And the neighborhood is still doing snow cones down at Concerts in the Park, so come on down.
Next, South End Neighborhoods Association next meeting is Thursday, August 18th. It will be our annual meeting in the park at Chapin Park in the picnic shelter. And we, the last few years, have had a hot dog barbecue, and this year we're kind of shake things up, and we're going to have an ice cream social, root beer floats and sundaes for everybody that shows up. Program to be determined.
All right. Rivercrest picnic will be the same night, the South End. Maybe we have a dessert potluck, so maybe when we're done eating, we can figure out if they've still got ice cream. And we'll be meeting at Rivercrest Park on Thursday the 18th, and that's about it for us. Except that we will be hosting the National Night Out tomorrow night, so everybody come visit Rivercrest. We'll get back to that.
That's that
Barbara?
same night.
Oh, it's also the 18th?
Yes.
Oh, well, we will not be able to be appreciated as volunteers, unfortunately.
You can come there for dinner.
Thursdays are iffy in the summer. We should have known that.
What time does your meeting start?
Actually, our potluck starts at 5:30.
Oh.
Thank you, dear.
We do appreciate you anyway.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Park Place neighborhood will be meeting in August on the 15th?
15th.
Yeah, 15th, 2 weeks from tonight. It is the steering committee meeting, it's not a general. I attended the groundbreaking of the Cove project, and I was very impressed with the presentations. Bob went as well. A couple of us, Faith was there. And yeah, it went very well. It was a good explanation, and I'm looking forward to the first phase of it being developed. Also, Park Place neighborhood is going to have their national night out on this coming Friday in Barlow Crest. Not Park Place, just Barlow Crest in Park Place. That's it.
Okay. All right. Before the staff goes, I'm going to just two quick things. Everyone who is signed up to help tomorrow night, I think, has gotten an email reminder. If you have not signed up to help, make sure you come to National Night Out.
Tell where it is again.
Mount Pleasant School, or as I'm starting to enjoy referring to it, the police department that isn't there yet. And they mowed today. I was watching all weekend because they had dandelions like this tall, and they ran the mower around. So all the grass will be nicely mowed for everybody attending the event. And the parking will be off of Warner Parrott. There's also parking available at the Presbyterian Church and Oregon City Evangelical Church. And the on-site parking can be a little limited. And there will be attendance if you ride your bicycle. Shelley and Tom are providing bicycle security for anyone who rides their bike to the event. So we have safe bicycles in Oregon City now. The other thing, we've encouraged everybody to attend other people's neighborhood association meetings. Occasionally it becomes humorous. Berkeley Hills, I think, had more of us than it did of them. However, Tony ran a wonderful meeting. Please continue to visit, but the executive committee would like to remind everyone you are a guest when you are attending a meeting at another neighborhood association. If they want to hear something from you, let them ask. If you want to have certain speakers at your neighborhood association so that you can engage into conversation with them, please feel free. But if you're visiting, you are a visitor. You are there to observe and learn from what your neighbors are doing. All right, Laura?
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for volunteering. I have extra one of these, one per person, for a dessert and dinner starting at 5:30 on August 18th. Okay, so first is a little bit of business, and that's topics for what you want to hear about. We've received a request from a member of the audience to talk about concept plans and just go into a little bit of detail about each of our 3 concept plans and where they are in those process. So I can give you a presentation on that. Is there any other issue that's sort of come up a bunch that you want presentations from staff, or you would like a presentation from a different group or committee? We were working on setting up a presentation from our Natural Resources Committee to the CIC.
Did you ask about 6 months ago, 8 months ago for a list of things that you wanted to see
Yes.
from us?
And we've been crossing them off really fast, and that's
you
why I'm
have-
kind of
so you have a
asking
list,
for
right?
more. I do have a list, and then I also have our goals, and we're also crossing those off fast too. So I wanted to, we'll talk about that in a second, but is there any issue that's come up recently for any particular reason that seems timely?
Just because I think it's newer and it wouldn't have come up before, I'd like to hear the Parks Foundation make a presentation. So that'll help more people become familiar with what they're doing.
Perfect.
And could you also invite Metro Parks as well?
Metro?
And that could be what they have to tie in with Oregon City and all our other parks together.
Are they far enough along on the walkway to do a presentation?
They did one not that long ago. We had Christina and Kelly, I believe,
Okay.
do one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But we can have Metro. Yeah.
Anyone else? Joyce?
And then the Girl Scouts that got their grant for Ladderette Park.
Yeah.
If they would like to come and give an update once they get into their
planning phase.
for that area.
Perfect. And then the other thing was our goals for 2015, 2017. Again, we've been crossing them off the list, which are pretty big ones, including the creation of a public involvement plan. Again, thank you for all your participation in that. There's a couple of big ticket items on here. So one was to develop resources to maintain active neighborhood associations and help reactivate inactive neighborhood associations. So do we want to do that first? Or the other one was create an avenue for public comments to be conveyed to the appropriate city department, and sort of do a tracking system for that. Is there an
Email
order?
that question out. I don't think there's, I can't
Okay.
answer that off the top of my head. Also, speaking of which, hopefully everyone got Laura's email about the letter of support. Please read that and respond to her
Yes.
By August.
by August 7th,
9th. Extra time.
I'm in a hurry.
Made so much time. So the city planning division is applying for a grant for equitable housing, and what that means is that we would like everyone to have the housing choices available to them that they need. So that would include everything from various income levels to ADA accessible housing, housing near transit lines. I mean, you name it. It's not just affordable housing. It's a lot broader of a scope for equitable housing. So can people find the housing that they need in Oregon City? And if not, how do we look at our processes and see if there's ways in which we can eke out some efficiencies there or our standards? So we're applying for a grant. That grant is due in a couple of weeks, so we're looking for a letter of support from the CIC. We've done some preliminary work with Karen, Barbara, Amy, and myself, and now we're asking all of you together to take that information back to your neighborhood association. Just say yay or nay on if you would support that, and if we get a majority of people, then we'll just go ahead and send in the letter for the CIC. Also, as a side note, you can feel free to submit a letter on behalf of your neighborhood association individually as well. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it. With this type of grant, it's good to know that there is support from the community, especially when we're looking at changing our codes potentially or looking at different avenues to allow housing.
Laura, also on future topics, I think I could get in trouble if I don't suggest bikeways, or I know there was a enhancement grant to add
for bike racks.
for bike racks around the city. So Shelley and Tom and the bike folk, it might be kind of interesting to see where Oregon City is right now and where we might be in the future on bicycle accessibility.
Perfect. And I was also going to try and get our economic development manager here too to talk a little bit about what we've been doing there as well, which kind of plays into a little bit of that.
Especially after tomorrow night.
So for the equitable housing, one thing that you should know is that we do this as a group, right? We are a community and we look at our codes and regulations as a community. And so we're not looking at this on our own in a vacuum in a closed room. We would be putting together a community advisory team, which would include obviously members from CIC. I'm not exactly sure what the makeup is, but we should know coming up pretty soon, as well as do a lot of community conversations with various groups to make sure that we really understand what the needs of the community are. So that aside, there's been a couple of staff changes. So I was appointed community development director, and we thank you. We're also doing interviews for community services director.
That is so confusing. Tony, can you change that title?
Planning and Parks.
Directors.
Yes, please.
And then we also, in the planning division, we have an opening for a planner. So if you know a planner, and please direct them to our website. We have a couple of LUBA appeals, so just a couple of updates on that. We had, the LUBA is the Land Use Board of Appeals, so when you have a land use application, normally it goes through the commissions, and after the local level it goes to the Land Use Board of Appeals, which is a court for land use, for better words. And we have 3 right now. One is the comprehensive plan amendment, zone change, and master plan amendment for the hospital, and we had oral argument for that last week or the week before, and we should hear back a written decision by about August 15th or so. We have 2 other ones. One is for zone change and a comprehensive plan amendment for a property at Beaver Creek in 213. I think they came before you as well, but they are doing a zone change with the trip cap associated with that, and we're still settling the record on that one. And the last one is the Beaver Creek Road concept plan readoption, and we are also settling the record on that one as well.
You want to clarify one thing? You kind of sounded like that's a normal step in the process. You want to explain how it actually gets to LUBA?
Yeah, so from my memory, I think we probably have less than 5 total, so 3 right now. So that's in the time we've been here. So I've been here 13, Tony's been here 15 years. So it's pretty rare normally that you would get an appeal. But anyone who has any comment in an application has standing for an appeal, and if they disagree with the decision in any way, they can appeal it, and there's this appeals process. So normally there's a local appeal process depending on the type of application. These ones already went to the City Commission, so the appeal goes to the Land Use Board of Appeals. Those decisions can be appealed through the court system and obviously up to the Supreme Court, right? There's this big long chain. So we think we are doing the right thing, and we have findings to say why we're doing what we're doing, and public input is very important to us. And if there is something we're missing, we hope that people work with us and let us know, and we'll fix it accordingly. But it happens from time to time, and it's okay. It's expensive, but it's okay.
Tony keep telling me that.
Yeah. And then let's see. So we have our meeting in September is canceled because it is a holiday. So the next time we'll be back here is in 2 months, which seems like a long time. It feels like it's been a while since we've been here.
2 months. Yeah.
Right? We did the first city celebration, and it was a wild success. So hopefully I saw you guys, a lot of you down there. That was great. Our Willamette Falls Legacy Project is continuing to move forward. We did a bunch of public outreach with our design team who was in town last week, and then part of the tail end of the week before that. They met with various stakeholders and had a joint work session with our Planning Commission and City Commission to look at that river walk. They're going to take all that information out, and then they will come back and present it to you for your refinement at a community open house event thing in the fall. So we had that one in March, I believe, at Abernathy. So we'll come back and do another event type where you can kind of help guide us through this process together. Marijuana regulations are going out before the Planning Commission on Monday for those first adoption of those hearings. And concerts in the park have been going well. Our attendance last week was 3,800.
Nice.
I know. Other than that, the Cove, which we kind of talked about earlier, so the development behind the Oregon City Shopping Center, they're building the phase 1, which is 244 condos, and then also some retail space. As a part of that development, they'll be closing part of Main Street. You would expect that to start later this month, and that will happen for about 4 months as trucks drive back and forth across Main Street and truck dirt, and you'll see that elevations of the roadways and those associated properties sort of change over time. So it will go from here to about 18 feet higher will be the finished elevation on that site to get it up out of that floodplain. That is the update for community development. And any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Question from anyone? All right, Tony.
Just real quick, since we won't meet again in September, it will be in October. It's going to be a very busy ballot this year at the national, state, regional, county, and local level. So just for at the state or at the local level, we'll have 3 city commission seats that are up for election. Commissioner Mengelberg's position, she'll need to rerun because she was appointed. Commissioner Rocky Smith is termed out by our charter, so he's served his 2 terms, so he cannot rerun for 2 years. And then obviously Carol Pauley, Commissioner Pauley, moved out of the city and vacated her seat. So those 3 seats will be up in November. There'll be 2 marijuana questions on the ballot, and there'll actually be one in the county as well that's almost identical. But essentially, we have a moratorium, as you're well aware, on retail, manufacturing, production of marijuana in Oregon City, and part of that requirement to put the moratorium in place was to send it to a vote in November. So there'll be 2 questions. One is, do we want to legalize marijuana sales, retail sales, manufacturing, growing in Oregon City limits? And then if the second question is, do we want to implement a 3% sales tax on recreational marijuana sales? So per state law, local jurisdictions are allowed to require up to a 3% sales tax, but it does need to go to the vote of the people. So if we vote no, the question of the sales tax is obviously not applicable. If the citizens vote yes, then it becomes whether we want to tax it at 3% or not. So both of those will be on. Wesley Lynn Park, the property owner adjacent to Wesley Lynn, is going to go back on the ballot again, requesting approval to construct a road over part of Wesley Lynn Park where they currently have an access easement. So that failed by, I believe it was 6 votes in May. So that'll be going back up again at the request of the property owner. And then we'll have CSAFE, the Community Safety Advancement Fund, will be on the ballot as well. So as many of you recall, the City Commission implemented a $6.50 per property fee that's applicable to all property owners in the city. So we've been collecting that for about a year, a little over a year and a half. Per our charter, if we're going to take on any debt in the city, we need to go to a vote of the people. So we are sending out a request to consider a $16 million general obligation bond to be paid back over a maximum of 20 years to pay for the community safety facility. So that'll be on the ballot as well. We chose a general obligation bond because it gets you the best interest rate associated with that, even though we're not going to be raising taxes to pay for the general obligation bond. We will use the fee. So the $6.50 essentially kicks off a little over $1 million a year. So that was really what we used to determine the size of the general obligation bond and the building that we can construct. And the other part is that the construction of the community safety facility was always 2 parts. One was the general obligation bond, or the monies that we could be collected from the fee. And then the second one was the sale of the existing facility. So between what we're able to collect before the actual general obligation bond before we collect on that to construct. So we're collecting money now. It's set aside in a separate fund to be used on the facility. But then there'll also be the sale of the property as well that'll go into the construction of that facility. So those are the ones that are in the House now, have been approved by the Commission. Not to say that other things couldn't come in before the close to get on the November ballot, but that's what we have right now. So I'd be happy to answer.
I have a question about the difference in what you're talking about, the marijuana thing versus the gas tax. Why is it seems to be that the gas tax scenario was being done, and it seems to be a blank okie dokie, the city signs a letter, says, okay, we're in for this contribution, and out of that we get 40%. How come that doesn't seem to be going to a city vote where the marijuana is? It's not the subject matter, it's the process for which these things are being done. Seems to be inconsistent to me.
The 6 cents gas tax will be county-wide. It's being done by Clackamas County, so all citizens of Clackamas County will get to vote. Yeah.
The county's already approved the marijuana thing. It's just
Yeah, but I believe they're putting on the 3 cent
Yeah.
tax for the county.
So my difference is how come one is going to the people and one is not?
And they both
your
are.
answer is because it's a county versus a city.
But they're both going to be on the November ballot. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
So it is a city thing, but I guess things that we're running in the city, I guess, was the difference.
Right,
Yeah,
well, the
yeah.
thing is that we should, as a public, should be voting on whether we want to adopt that gas tax.
And you will be.
Right, and I didn't understand that from John Lewis.
Yeah.
Whether that was part of it. It sounded like it was an agreement that was made and then moved on to the county.
Essentially, what the county said was that all jurisdictions had to enter into an intergovernmental agreement in order to receive the funds by September 1st.
So it's the hard line.
Yeah. So, but it still goes to a vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Choice.
Okay, I'm sorry that John Lewis has already left because my question's mostly for him, but hopefully somebody else can answer it. I could not hear everything that John was saying exactly. I don't have very good hearing, so I always listen to our meetings at home again so that I can hear what's going on. But I was delivered to me this packet of stickers and a map and this garbage can decal distribution guidelines. I'm not doing this. I don't understand how we, as the neighborhood association, are supposed to walk this map and ask the people at these houses that are marked to put decals
Right,
on their
Joyce,
garbage cans.
I think, can you hear me?
Barely.
The problem is you were not able to hear John. There is no expectation that you do this. If you can find some people to help do it, that's fine. If you don't have a method to distribute it, let John know. We're not being required to become the distribution agent. This is a way for him to divide them out. If you cannot find the assistance to do it in your neighborhood, just let John know.
Okay.
I'm planning on adding
I'm going to
steps.
pass this off to my neighborhood co-chair over there, and we'll discuss this then at our next board meeting.
Well, and I
tomorrow
might be
night.
able to, after I get my steps accumulated in my neighborhood, I might be able to help in yours.
Okay, thank you so much for helping to clarify that.
Yeah, and actually, Barbara just asked about handing them out tomorrow night. If you've looked at your packets yet, one of the plans is that they be visible. So there needs to be a certain traffic flow on the streets where you hand them out. Yeah, so each of you will have where it's more likely that people will be driving by and see them. You know, if you live at the end of a dead end or in a cul-de-sac,
I live here.
I was going to say thank you to anyone in a cul-de-sac that wants to help, but you will probably be the last one to get a sticker.